Good afternoon, everyone. Aloha and mahalo to the University of Fraser Valley and the hiring committee for the opportunity to share my work and research with you. I am truly thankful and grateful to have this opportunity during these uncertain and chaotic times of COVID-19. First, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional lands of the Coast Salish people, the Squamish, the Tsleil-Waututh, and the Musqueam. And I'm grateful to have the opportunity to live, work, and play on these lands. I also must thank and acknowledge the Indigenous peoples of Hawaii, the Kanaka Maoli, for sharing their knowledge and aloha with me. First, I'd like to introduce myself. Like many of you, I'm a person that plays many roles and wears many hats. I'm a mother of 2 wonderful children, and I'm a caretaker of aging parents. I'm a volunteer at Science World, among other places. And professionally, I'm a stem cell scientist with a doctorate from UBC's Department of Medicine, and I work in the biotech industry as a professional and an entrepreneur. I decided to change careers after having my first son and pursued my second PhD in education. Today, I'm an educator and researcher at SFU's Department of Educational Theory and Practice, with a specialization in curriculum theory and implementation. Like many of my peers, life has given me many unexpected turns, which has given me valuable insights and meanings on my life journey. Now, those life lessons deeply influence my current research in education, and I've also incorporated them into effective learning opportunities for all of my students. There's no better way to teach than sharing lived experiences with each other. And with that, I invite you to join me in sharing my research with you today. My research is in the field of curriculum design and pedagogy for all learners. As a research model, I focus on expanding and extending the meaning of scientific literacy to include Indigenous epistemology, in particular Indigenous Hawaiian, through my personal experience with Hula. I applied a methodology called SSTEP, Self-Study of Teacher Education Practices. SSTEP is a methodological framework built on understanding the self through reflection, and specifically aligns with Donald Schoen's work, where he developed notions of reflection on action and reflection in action. The most important part of SSTEP is the sharing of these reflections and developing an openness and vulnerability to critique questions and contradictions. It moves the practitioner towards finding strategies to question and challenge assumptions, values, and processes to understand how we can relate with each other, within ourselves, and how these relatedness shape us. I'm going to share my research and how it has transcended borders and disciplines to understand scientific literacy through an Indigenous lens. Let's first start with these 2 pictures. As you look at these pictures, what are you thinking about? Sci-fi pictures I got off the internet? Example of viruses from the world's most harmful diseases? Or do these hide secrets to the next cure to cancer? At this moment, these black and white pictures or globs on the screen doesn't speak much to most of us. I'm going to let you sit with those questions as I move into the presentation of my research, and we'll come back to these pictures later. First, how does the field define science literacy? There still remains a gold standard definition of what science literacy means, and I refer specifically to the Handbook of Research on Science Education published in 2007, where Roberts and Osborne describe distinctions between science literacy and scientific literacy. These 2 distinctions are labeled as Vision 1 and Vision 2, respectively. Briefly, Vision 1 was focused more around scientific knowledge, concepts, and the process of science, akin to using the scientific method. Whereas in Vision 2, scientific literacy is focused on how science is understood within a context and how science is applied in society. As such, a scientifically literate person has 3 qualities. 1, has a breadth of scientific knowledge and understanding. 2, has an ability to apply that knowledge and understanding towards oneself and society. And more importantly, 3rd, can innovate solutions to solve current global challenges. As a stem cell scientist, my scientific knowledge, conceptual application, and translational research are grounded within these attributes of Vision 1 and 2. These are the very images of cells smaller than a grain of sand that I studied for 4.5 years in my first PhD. My research was grounded in the scientific method, where objectivity governs everything a scientist do in a lab.
That is, a strict adherence to objectivity by removing the self, the researcher. That meant reproducibility, validity, credibility, and accuracy. After the birth of my first son, I realized that there was more than knowledge and understanding of science that is important, of which I wanted to share with him. I wanted to share my emotions, feelings, and connections with, of, and about science, which was missing from my training as a scientist. This was what started my second PhD work. In my current PhD work in education, I propose a third vision, a vision that places equal importance to a relational way of thinking about and doing science. In particular, using the Hawaiian Indigenous way of relationality that opens up an extension to what being scientifically literate mean. My thesis work explores this novel way of using relationality in science to eliminate human-created boundaries, divisions between human and non-human, culture and nature, epistemology and ontology, to move towards the philosophical issues of the conditions of relations with the researcher and the world she's researching and being in.
Although my work is based on science, my research journey and my lived experiences show that this relational way of being, thinking and doing, and even feeling is important to truly understand yourself, your core, your values, your worldviews. Understanding and being able to deeply reflect on how relationality plays in your personal and career journey will help ensure that you are on the path that you want to be. This is regardless of what discipline you're in, architecture, economics, science, or who you want to become in society. My research has been applied in courses that I've taught and designed for my students.
As part of my research, I studied prominent scholars in Hawaiian epistemology like Sharon Mahelani Rao and Dr. Manulani Mayer, who are experts with embodied ways of knowing. I'm also grateful to my kumu hula, Josie Debat at my Halau Hula School, for helping me experience and know the world differently.
By applying the lens of the work of these teachers, I became more relational with science through hula and the movements of the body, connections of the heart, pu'uwai, to oli, which are chants and mele songs, with embodied scientific literacy. And hula brings forth a relationship with aina, or land, and this includes humans, animals, nature, and through this reciprocity and relations that merges the mind, ike, or the body, kino, and the spirit, mana, in learning and experiencing. And I've been learning and performing hula for the last 16 years, and through this process of deep self-reflection, I have realized that this way of being have informed my life and scientific core, and still run strong today. So how does all of this make me a research scientist, relate to the world differently, and thus can be challenged to live and see the world with heart?
Remember that I practiced science through visions 1 and 2 for the first part of my career. And now, in relation to a part of science that considers the world not only from an objective view, but also in a relational way. The world that I worked in as a scientist is microscopic. These cells that I showed you previously hold the answers to understanding leukemic cells and contribute to creating treatments so that patients have a better prognosis. Knowing this, I now relate to them as more than just an experiment, but are important entities that are part of someone's story.
So how does the results of my research advance the way education is done in curriculum and pedagogy design? Well, in many cases, curriculum becomes very methodical and technical, and specifically to reach a predetermined learning outcome. And sometimes curriculum can become a how-to-do list in the class. But when the curriculum considers the relation between feelings, culture, human experiences, stories, that is when you start to see meaningful learning with the students. They begin to really understand and experience and really embody the ideas rather than memorizing the facts. This relational way of learning is also important for career journeys like mine. The same person will go through different life changes with different experiences and expectations. Their careers will also shift multiple times with your evolving story and the stories of others. This is an important concept that I have experienced personally and in my research. And I use this to inform and shape my curriculum in all the courses that I design and teach, and throughout all my research going forward. With that, I want to thank you for this opportunity to present to you, to all the staff, faculty, and students who may be watching. I hope that you've learned some useful concepts from my very brief talk, and I hope that I will have the opportunity to share more of these ideas with you. Aloha and mahalo.